This is her big trip. She's off to live in Nice, France.
Wow.
She's been wanting all of her life to move there, and this is the picture of her leaving the United States.
That's fantastic.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. Forever. Forever.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ann and this is Postcards from My Golden Years. I'm so happy to see you today. So, I know I missed a week on my videos when Jeff and I were in Nice, and I didn't have a whole lot planned for this particular video. But over this past week, I've gotten so many questions about how's this going? How's that going? What did you do about this? What did you do about that? Are you there for good yet? All of that kind of stuff. So first, let me back up a little bit and give you a little bit of what's going on now. We spent about a week in Nice. We got there on Monday morning, and the first thing we had to do was a walkthrough of our new apartment with the management's representative who walked around with a, I guess it looked like an iPad, and he just walked around putting in all kinds of information, taking all kinds of pictures of things, and that was sort of the walkthrough. We didn't walk with him. He just did it, and our realtor or representative from Adrian Lee's was with us, and I guess she was there for moral support, and you know, occasionally she'd ask him some questions or tell him some things. And so it was good that she came to hang out with us while this was happening, and that took about 2.5 hours, I guess, something like that. And my understanding is, as I said, he was taking pictures all over the place. On occasion, he asked us to please leave a particular room because he needed to take pictures of the room without us in it. So, all well and good. And then they went over the keys with us so we could figure out what's what. I love the keys in France. Our apartment key, it looks like this old-fashioned key. To me, it looks like something you'd find for the door of a castle. But that's the key to our apartment. So anyway, in case you didn't notice, yes, I'm back in Florida, back in the midst of boxes and piles and all kinds of things. So before I go further into our time in Nice, let me just say, on the way back a couple of days ago, a couple of nights ago, I guess it was Sunday, we flew back from Paris. We had a long layover. We got to Paris on Saturday. We had a 24-hour layover, which we made the best of, hung out in Paris, went to our favorite place for a glass of champagne and a little bit of dinner. And the next morning we had to be at the airport to get on the second leg of our flight back to Miami. Sitting in the airport, Jeff suddenly just started sneezing and coughing and hacking, and that's why he's not with me. Yes, he's retired, but let me get into it. Anyway, he had what he thought was a sinus infection, a bad sinus infection. And, you know, not to get graphic, but, you know, he had to keep throwing up phlegm and mucus, and it was terrible. Anyway, we got on the plane, and it was a 9+ hour flight. And let me tell you, it was probably one of the rockiest flights that I can ever remember being on. There were turbulence, I would say, for a good 75–80% of that flight. It was terrible. And Jeff did not feel better. In fact, he started feeling worse. And this poor guy is sitting next to me. We're rocking away, and he's sitting there with the stomach distress bag. First he used his, and then he borrowed mine because his he threw away. And he just literally sat there with the stomach distress bag under his mouth because he was like throwing up more mucus and phlegm. And again, I apologize for getting graphic, but this was like the flight home from hell. We were never so happy to get back. And then when we got to the airport in Miami, for some reason, Air France didn't have a gate. And we literally sat on that plane for about an hour and 25 minutes while they figured out what to do with us. And then eventually we went in and we had to go through immigration, and there was this long line, and, you know, poor Jeff, he's still not feeling well at this point. So we came home and we went to sleep, and he woke up in the morning and he didn't feel any better. So we contacted our doctor. Fortunately, we have a doctor who's a concierge doctor, so we can just send him a text message and say, hey, doctor, this is what's happening, can you help? And so we texted him, and the first thing he told me to do is go out and get him a COVID test. And yeah, you know where this is going. So I gave Jeff a COVID test, and unfortunately, it went right to that C for COVID. I mean, it was not like a gradual thing. It, like the fluid in that little test piece, did a beeline for the C. Well, that's this week, actually today. I'm recording this on Tuesday, but you're probably watching it on Sunday. This week today, we were supposed to get in the car with our little dog Bella, and we were going to drive up to Pennsylvania from Florida. I wanted to see my son. I wanted to see where he lives. Jeff wanted to see, well, we both wanted to see his sister and her husband, who had moved from Florida to about 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from where I grew up. And so we wanted to spend some time with them, and I wanted to go to my parents' graves because I thought that it would probably be the last time that I would have that opportunity. Jeff and I have really no real plan to come back to the United States. And so I wanted to do a lot of things, and we were supposed to have a Goodbye USA party at my son Ryan's house, and I had my niece, who's also my goddaughter, and my brother and his wife, and my other niece, and my son's relatives, who I still consider family from my first marriage, but they're all related to Ryan's dad and the people Ryan lives with. And we were going to have a party. There were going to be about 30 people, and I was really looking forward to it. So unfortunately, when Jeff was sick in the airport, I just had this feeling that he wasn't in the mood to drive. And if you consider the fact that you're sitting on a plane with some guy who's literally throwing up about every 10–15 minutes, and you're thinking 2 days later we're going to get in a car and drive 3 days to Pennsylvania, I just knew it wasn't happening. So first thing the morning after, before we even knew it was COVID, I sent text messages to everybody. Even my oldest friend that I have known since I was 15 years old, my friend Linda, was supposed to drive down from Bingham to New York to hang out with us, and we had all these wonderful plans, and it's a good thing that we canceled all of that, because the last thing we would have wanted to do is drive 3 days and then have Jeff make everybody sick. And, you know, knock wood, hopefully I don't get it. I'm doing everything that I can do or can think of doing, although I've already been exposed to him, so I'm not even bothering to wear a mask because, you know, I was on the plane next to him and with him for the week before, and I've been in the house with him. So, but I'm walking around with literally a bottle of alcohol wipes, and it's horrible to say, but I sort of follow him around every time he gets out of bed and touches something. I make a note of what he touches, and when he goes back to bed, I go and I wipe doorknobs and toilet seats. I wipe everything with alcohol, and I'm constantly washing my hands if I even go near him, because I don't want to catch what he's got. I've had COVID twice before, as has he. But the good news is our doctor prescribed Paxlovid for him, and last time we had COVID, the Paxlovid got us back to feeling pretty, I want to say, almost great within 3 or 4 days. So I'm hoping it works out for Jeff. But he's sleeping, and I want him to sleep and get better because as of today, we've got 19 days before we have to get out of this house and hand the keys back to our landlord. And so I've been spending all day today packing and purging. So one of the first things I did was I went to my spice cabinet and I got a trash can, and I literally had to throw everything away except the spices that there's a slight possibility I might use between now and the end of the month. And then I went to this other cabinet where I don't know why, but I had an entire cabinet of sprinkles, like, you know, where I grew up in the Philadelphia area, we call them jimmies. Well, I had chocolate jimmies and rainbow jimmies and red jimmies and green jimmies and sparkle jimmies and all kinds of sugar things. And, you know, all of them, some of them weren't even open. All of them I had to put in the trash. And then I had so many trash bags that I couldn't carry them. I was stacking them outside of our front door. And then I went to the pantry and I started going through food and pulling cans out because I don't want to throw away food that's good. And I thought, well, I'm going to find out where there's a food bank very close here and donate the food so that, you know, maybe somebody won't go hungry for a little while. Anyway, there's a bunch of cans of soup and I think that might be it, maybe some pasta. So anyway, that was my chore today. And so I went outside and I took the trash can from the area where we keep our trash cans and recycle. And I brought the trash can to the front door and I stood on the top step and I just started heaving all the bags into the trash can. And then it got so heavy that I can't move it back to where it goes. So I'm hoping that by Thursday night, or actually I think it's tomorrow night, Wednesday, and I'm hoping that maybe Jeff will be strong enough. Right now he just wobbles if he tries to walk. I'm hoping that maybe he'll be strong enough that he can get out and push that can out to the street so that the trash men will empty it. So that brings us pretty much up to current, the status of things today. So let me talk a little bit about the apartment now. The apartment is in a wonderful area of Nice. It's called Nice Centre, or in English, Nice, the center of Nice. And it's sort of near a mall. And the one thing is, to my surprise, we were in a little grocery store just around the block from us, and I ran into one of my subscribers, Dee Dee, hello. She caught us off guard and she said, you know, I know you too. And we could not think of who she was. Obviously, we'd never seen her in person. And so it really took us by surprise. And Dee Dee, if you're watching this, I apologize that we seem very preoccupied. Initially, I didn't know who you are, and then I remembered that you and I have been communicating on occasion over the last, I guess, couple of months. So anyway, we look forward to getting together with you. Dee Dee, you just have to send me a personal message, you know, PM. My email's right below the video. It's below every single video. So anyway, as I said, we're in a very nice area, what we think is a very nice area for Nice. Our apartment was not a surprise to us. We knew that it was going to be about half the size of the house that we are renting here in Florida. I wanted to record this video tonight so that I have something to edit while I'm sitting on the couch multitasking. So anyway, the apartment, it's about 700 square feet. We thought it was less than that initially, but it's when we looked at the paperwork, it's actually, I think, 699 square feet, so, or 699.5 square feet. So, you know, that's like 700 square feet to us. So the first thing that we had to do after we did the walkthrough was figure out what furniture we like and what furniture we didn't. If you're renting an apartment for the first time in Nice, let me just say that obviously there's a difference between a furnished apartment and an unfurnished apartment. One of the biggest differences, if you rent a furnished apartment, you get a 1-year lease and it renews every year. If you are renting an unfurnished apartment, you can get a 3-year lease. So a lot of landlords, owners, they just want to do a 1-year lease and have it just renew every year. And so they put furniture in the apartment. In our particular apartment, we already knew we didn't like the furniture because when we did a video walkthrough with our agent and the management people before we signed the lease and decided we wanted it, we saw the furniture and we didn't say anything other than to our agent privately. We said, okay, we don't like the dining room furniture and the living room. That, you know, that just isn't living room furniture to us. So I'm going to show you pictures of what was there. To me, this is not nicely furnished, but it didn't matter to us because we sold all of our furniture here. I know we've got a few pieces left, but we sold our dining room set and our living room set is at the point where it's probably going to go out at the curb when we leave on the last day. But we sold our furniture and put all the money in the bank so that we could buy new furniture in France. And that's our intention. So in the dining room, she had a round table. It's a round wood table. I'm not sure if it's solid wood. And on the bottom, there's like, I don't know, a whole strip is missing. And so it's like the inside of the wood part is exposed. And then there are 4 chairs. Not one of the chairs matches another. Like, it is what it is. We simply said that we don't want that furniture and we're going to buy ourselves new dining room furniture. And as I said, new living room furniture. And in the living room, there were these 2 tall back chairs that I guess you would put at a dining table. They're like green velour, and a coffee table that isn't our taste. So we decided that we're going to move those 2 green chairs into corners over in the dining room, and we'll just use them as extra dining room chairs in case we have 2 extra guests. Because we plan to buy a dining room table that is a table for 4, and so we'll use those 2 chairs. The table and the mismatched chairs that where nothing matches, the landlord doesn't care what we do with those things. Her idea was, well, why don't you just get rid of them, and then when you leave me your furniture. And this may be the French way of thinking, but for us, it's not exactly the way we think. I mean, we're going out and buying brand new furniture. She doesn't want to take them out of the apartment on her own. So this means that Jeff and I, when we get back to Nice in the beginning of April, we will probably have to rent a truck or rent a car. He thinks he can take the table apart and then we'll throw all the stuff in the car, go find a storage unit and put it in there. We think we're probably going to need a storage unit based on the size of those closets. We're going to need a storage unit, I think, for alternative season clothing. I mean, years ago, when I didn't have as many closets as I have here in Florida, I would just simply change my clothes. In the winter, I bring the boxes up from the basement or that wherever, and I'd swap out the summer clothes for the winter clothes and vice versa. And I think we're going to have to do that as well, but I don't think that there is space in the apartment for us to keep the boxes. So we figure we're going to have to get a storage unit anyway, so we'll throw this other furniture that the owner wants us to return, or that we will have to provide, rather than having to go around and buy a table and 4 chairs for her at the end if we decide to leave someday. We'd rather we'll just keep it in the back of our storage unit, and that's what will happen with that. The next little issue was the fact that there isn't an oven under the cooktop. And so there's a microwave and a convection oven that the owner put in there on top of each other. And she already knew that we were going to take those 2 out. My intention was there's a cart in the kitchen and there's a counter. So I was going to put one of them on the counter and put one of them on the cart. The convection oven looks like it had a fire. It's got brown burn marks on it, and there's no way I would turn it on. It looks older than dirt. And, probably none of you except my brother know that when I was a teenager, when both of us were teenagers, our house caught on fire back up in Pennsylvania. And our entire upstairs was, I don't want to say burned to the ground, but burned right down through to the beams. So all the sheetrock was burned, and it was a nightmare. And I don't ever want to have to go through that again. And so because I survived this massive fire in our home as a kid, the idea of turning something on that looks like it already had a fire does not appeal to me. So, but the management company for the apartment said that when the guy came on that day to do the walkthrough, that he turned it on and it worked fine with him. So if he turned it on and it lit up and that passes muster, that's fine. If it were me renting my home, I probably would not put something that looks like it already had a big fire in it in the oven. So we're going to take that, and again, if the landlord doesn't want to remove it from the kitchen, we will put that in the storage unit too and just leave it there until the day we move, and then we'll take our oven and then we'll put the microwave and her little convection oven back in that cavity, and the apartment will look just like we got it. So this is the first experience with how some landlords think. We've been in lovely apartments, Airbnbs in Nice and Paris, and except for one, they're all beautiful. They're beautifully furnished. Now I realize that this person is not using this apartment as an Airbnb, and so maybe she doesn't have to make it as lovely. And we did say when we met with her before we signed the lease that we intended to buy a new dining room set and new living room furniture. So I don't know, maybe she figured, look, I'll put this stuff in and you're not going to use it anyway, so why should I spend a lot of money for something you're not going to use? I don't know, and I still have to learn if this is just the way French landlords do things or not. So I'm sure a lot of you would do the same, although I'm sure there may be some of you who would say, oh, forget that. I would simply say this is unacceptable and demand something else. But since we want to buy our own furniture, what's the point? Okay, so that's the apartment. Oh, the next thing in the apartment, the closets. Well, living here in Florida, where I've had walk-in closets everywhere I've lived, compared to when I lived up north, where I did not ever have a walk-in closet, surprisingly, it was a big adjustment getting to, one of these big, it's a wide closet, and Jeff and I have to share it. And so we took suitcases of clothes with us. And we brought a total of 4 suitcases. I believe one was Jeff's clothes, 2.5 were my clothes, and then there was one that was miscellaneous other stuff. So I've emptied all of the suitcases that we brought, and I don't think Jeff hung up all of his clothes. He temporarily shoved his suitcase in the guest room, and I think some of his stuff is still sitting on the guest room bed. I emptied all of the stuff in my suitcases, and I probably could have filled up that entire closet with clothes. I ended up having to fold all of my jeans, and anything that was like more casual was folded. I had to fold all of my sweaters. There are shelves in the closet, so I took over one whole shelf, and fortunately it was big enough to put all of my jeans and sweaters and t-shirts, and then way over on the side, leggings. And there was a hall closet, a really nice long hall closet that typically probably would be used for coats, although we don't have enough coats to fill that closet. So I started putting my clothes out there in that hallway closet as well. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I have 3 boxes, not huge boxes, but they're like medium U-Haul boxes with clothes here that have yet to get to France, that the mover is going to take. And so the first thing that I did this morning when I woke up is I went through all 3 of those boxes of clothes, and I thought, okay, let's get serious now. Let's really figure out what clothes you need to bring. So for the most part, what's in these boxes is probably the equivalent of clothes that I already brought that are more clothes for like late winter, early spring. So these boxes are pretty much mostly summer clothes, although there is one box that's nothing but sweatshirts and sweaters. So, I mean, I might squeeze that in somewhere at the apartment, but I think the other boxes may end up in storage because they're more summer clothes, shorts, tank tops, things like that. But it really, going to see that apartment really made me think, okay, you got to get serious about the clothes. They're not all coming. So I managed to get this whole bag of clothes, and it's pretty, they're packed in there pretty full. So that was the end result of going through the 3 boxes of clothes that were packed here waiting for the mover. We're talking boxes. You know, this pile hasn't changed a whole lot. But we're getting there. I managed to finish almost all of my closet. So these are the last things in my closet, and these will just go in the suitcase, and everything else is pretty much gone. Just a few odds and ends. So here you can see cabinets. I mean, there's nothing really exciting to see here. I still have to pack these glasses, and they're probably going to go or be donated, except for these 2. I had pulled these out of packed glasses for Jeff and I to have some champagne in a real champagne flute. So those 2 will come with us, as will this wine filter thing. So one of the first things that we bought when we got to Nice, in order to go to sleep that night after the walkthrough, we went over to the mall because the bed had no sheets on it. And we're used to sleeping in a king-size bed, although these days we're sleeping on a queen-size air bed. So this was a full-size bed in the master bedroom. And our plan is to buy a king-size bed for that bedroom short time once we get back to Nice. But anyway, we needed sheets and we needed a blanket or a comforter and we needed pillows to sleep on. There were some things that were in the apartment and everything was really dusty. That was another thing about the apartment. Here in the United States, if you're renting a place, you pretty much make it immaculate before the new people come. At least I would. When I was renting properties, everything would be, spotless. In France, the owners don't really care that much. They're typically very dusty because maybe they haven't been lived in a while. And that was the situation in this particular apartment. So everything we touched on any of the shelves was like in dusty packages. So we literally went out to the store and we bought brand new sheets, pillowcases, comforter, and a duvet cover. And we bought pillows. Now she had a couple of new pillows there. So even though they were in dusty packages, when we took the packages off of them, they were clean. So we did have that. One thing that we found strange, this was the first time we ever bought bed linens in France, obviously. The pillows there are all square. So I had planned to bring my pillowcases here from the United States, which are rectangular. I just added them to the bag to donate because there's no point in bringing them. None of the pillows in our apartment are rectangular. And we don't want to go out and try finding, I'm sure there are rectangular pillows for sale somewhere in France, but the square pillows that we got are actually very fluffy and amazingly comfortable. So I don't need the sheets. I was also going to bring some king-size sheets from home. I'm not even going to bother because I have a feeling they're not going to fit the bed in France. We'll just have to buy new sheets when we get a king-size bed. The one thing we did find unusual, and I could kick myself for not taking a video of this, the sheet that we put on the bed, it was like doubled and stitched together on 3 sides. And on a part of the 4th side, it was stitched a little bit in here and a little bit on that side. And it was sort of like, Jeff called it like a sleeping bag sheet. And so we never saw anything like that before. And we don't know whether we just bought different sheets or whether all sheets are like that. But imagine two pieces of sheet, 2 layers of sheet stitched together with an opening at the top, and the opening is stitched together, maybe a quarter of the, no, not even a quarter of the way, maybe, I don't know, 6 inches on each side, it's stitched in. So it leaves like this pocket that you could slide in. So the first night that we were sleeping there, Jeff and I slid into the pocket because, they don't use cover sheets in France. I don't know why. They just put comforters on top of them. So we thought, oh, well, maybe this is somebody's version of a sheet and a cover sheet. And it's not fitted. It was, you had to tuck it in all the way around. So the first night we slid into that pocket together. The problem was that if either of us moved, it ripped the sheet out of the side of the bed, and you couldn't keep the top of the back end of the sheet behind our heads. You couldn't keep that tucked in because we had to slide into the hole. It was a very strange setup, and that we only did that one night that we were there. And then the second night, I said to Jeff, I'm not doing this again. I couldn't sleep because every time he moved, we were already dealing with jet lag, and every time he moved, he'd like pull a part of the sheet out of the bed, and it was a mess. So the next night, I said, you know what, we're tucking in the entire sheet, and we're going to sleep on both layers. And we got, at this point, that's when we got the comforter. We didn't have the comforter the first night. We used a blanket I had found in I don't know, wrapped in plastic or something in a closet. So we used that the first night. So the second night we tucked in that doubled sheet. I still don't know what it is. If any of you are watching, you know what kind of sheet that is, what you do with it. Leave me a comment below. It was like the strangest thing. But now that I know that sheets in France, like you can't get fitted sheets, at least we couldn't. Now we went to the Monoprix, so I don't know whether that's why we couldn't find what we were looking for, but I thought it would be like buying sheets here in the United States. You buy one fitted sheet, you buy a flat sheet, sometimes you can get a set, and it comes with one of each and 2 pillowcases. That's how it happens here in the United States. Well, we didn't find that in Monoprix. So we'll have to continue working on that. But for now, we're just going to use that one doubled sheet. And the comforter was really, really comfortable. And I'm trying to remember where we found that comforter. It may have been Monoprix as well. It's funny, it just happened last week and I already forgot. So that was the first unusual thing in getting the apartment set up. The other thing is that no ice maker in the refrigerator. So there were just some little ice trays. So I'm gonna have to get more ice trays because we love ice in our drinks. And I think there were 3 little ice trays. If you've ever seen the miniature ones, there were 3 of those. So I filled them so that we'll have ice when we come back. But we definitely need a lot more ice trays. So that was a little bit of a difference. And I can't think of what else. Oh, all right. Again, like I'm telling you, this is all over the place. They're just like observations, what we saw, what we noticed, what we experienced in this 1 week that we went back to Nice to sort of start to get ourselves set up. So in the grocery store, I'm trying to think, it was, I think, the Monoprix actually. Bananas, not just in the Monoprix, but then we also went to another store called Casino. We went to several of them looking for bananas. The bananas look like hell. I mean, normally you go into the grocery store in France and the fruits and vegetables are absolutely beautiful. I don't know, maybe the bananas weren't in season, but they were all such ugly bananas. They're already, a lot of black on them. And when I buy bananas, I tend to like to buy them very, very slightly green with maybe 1 or 2 that are already ready to eat and the rest slightly green so that over the days they'll get riper. I would never buy bananas that are black or bruised, but every banana that we saw on this trip was like that. Okay, some other things. Let's see. We were wandering around in our neighborhood looking for places to eat, and they have an app. Now, I can't think of the name of the app. I'll put it on the screen if I can think of it. I think it was called The Fork. Anyway, it's like our open table here in the US. So when it was time for dinner, I would do a Google search and I would say restaurants very close to me. There was always a long list. I mean, we went to 2 really nice restaurants that we had never been to before. One was Italian and the other one was just French. And if you kept up with me on the Postcards from My Golden Years Facebook page, if you kept up there, I had posted some little videos from those restaurants. So if you're not a member of my Facebook group, Postcards from My Golden Years on Facebook, join that and you can flip through and see the videos that I had posted while we were gone. We also went back to this great restaurant, Centimi, which is also Italian. And we had discovered this restaurant when we were in Nice, not this past time, but the time before in, I guess, November and December. And I love it just sitting in there because it has a giant olive tree in the middle of the restaurant. And the food is very, very good. And unfortunately, we can never finish it. But so we went back to that place and then these other 2 restaurants. Oh, one night we weren't hungry. So we had a big lunch somewhere in a cafe. So we didn't have dinner. And then another night, we opened a bottle of wine and I had a bunch of cheese and fruit. That was it. I had a bunch of cheese and fruit. And we were picking at that, and we got full on that. Oh, we had bread, cheese, fruit. So we never went out to dinner. Both of us have been dieting, and so our stomachs have shrunk, and so our appetite is not what it used to be. So if we have a big lunch, we typically aren't hungry even at dinner time, and we'll just pick at something. So anyway, so we found some good restaurants that are very close to our apartment, and it was amazing. Well, food was fabulous everywhere we ate. I've never had a bad meal in Nice, honestly. A couple of other things that we did while we were there. We went to free mobile. We went to the free store. It's not free, like no cost. It's called free, F-R-E-E. And we got French telephone numbers. In my particular case, I could have, I could leave my current US SIM card in my phone, and they could give me an eSIM that I can adjust. I have a Samsung phone, and I can simply go into settings and I can switch off from one phone number to the other. So if I want to make a call from my US phone number, I switch off my free SIM. If I'm in France and don't want to get roaming charges from my US number, I switch off that SIM card and I just use the free mobile SIM card. The plan was, I want to say it was like $15 a month. I think that it was somewhere around $15, $19 a month for probably more minutes, data that I have ever used on my current phone. Now, if you're in the US, you know what Verizon is like. I mean, we've been paying, we're on some senior plan that they've always been trying to get us off of, and I think it was like $50 or $55 per phone per month, and that wasn't even a 5G line. If we wanted to go to 5G, we had to upgrade the plan, and then it would cost us twice that. So we definitely were spending a lot of money on Verizon. So when we found out the cost of mobile service with free, it was like a no-brainer, absolutely. So, and then they're also going to come and put internet in when we get back, and I think that our internet is $29 a month. Again, a significant drop from Comcast Xfinity. I mean, our internet and cable bill here is like, I don't even have a box. It's like maybe $128, $130. And we don't have a box here in the US. We're just streaming television service. So it is way expensive here compared to there. So we signed up for the internet, the free, again, not free cost. The name is just free. Free internet, free mobile, and let's see, what else did we do? For those of you who are leaving the US and you don't want to let go of your US number right away, today I switched our phones out from Verizon. Before we went to Nice, I went on to Mint Mobile, and I found out that Mint Mobile has plans also more than we will ever use in data, with unlimited text and I think unlimited calling, text, and I think it was, I forget how much data. But they have an introductory deal where you buy 3 months at a time, it's $15 a month. So we signed up for each of our phones. We kept our US numbers, the ones we had with Verizon, we kept them. And this morning, when I woke up, I went one phone at a time, following the instructions, and I dumped Verizon and got on Mint Mobile. And then the way we're going to use it is you buy international time. So for example, I put $20 in an international what's called the bank on the Mint Mobile account. And what that means is when I am in Nice, if I want to use that number, they have various time periods you can use that number, either for the day, for the week, I think the other one is for a month, and they have varying costs. So I just started with 20 bucks because I don't plan to use that number for the most part for very long. And I may dump my Mint Mobile service in a little while. But when you renew in clumps. So it's not like where you kind of pay as you go with Verizon or other plans. You buy clumps. So the next clump, if I want to stay with the $15 a month with Mint Mobile, I think it was, I forget what it was. I think it was $15 a month for the rest of the year if I pay for it all up front, which is such a deal. And so, and Jeff wanted his phone. He's not ready to give up his phone number yet. So for a while, we're going to have our US numbers come with us. And that way, the one benefit, aside from just having the number, is that if you have credit cards and they need to send you a 4-digit code, you just flip your SIM card onto the US Mint Mobile account and do whatever the credit card needs to do so you can get your 4-digit code and then flip off that SIM card, go back to the French number, and you're all done. So we've taken care of phone service. The next thing that we're going to do, and I'm trying to remember questions that people have been asking me, credit cards. We haven't closed any bank accounts here in the US. We're not canceling any credit cards. They're coming with us. We are considering using a mail forwarding service. It's sort of like a service where your mail gets forwarded to this other address, and there are a couple of them that we found here in Florida. So your mail goes to that address, and they send you an email when they have mail. And you can see the outside of the envelope, and anything you want them to open and scan for you, they'll open and scan. And anything you want them to forward to you, they'll forward to you for a charge. And so we thought that we'll sign up for one of those services. And I forget what it is per month. I want to say it's like 10 bucks a month. And that way we can use our US address on all the credit cards. And we don't get our bills in the mail anyway. We do all of our all of our bill payments online. So the only time we would really need to have something mailed from the credit card company is if we get a new card. They would have to have a US address to mail it to. I'm not sure they'll mail it to an address in France. So that's how we're sort of dealing with that situation. It has yet to be explored, and when I finalize our plan, I'll do a little video on that so you know. And I'm trying to think if there are any other questions people have asked. Now, regarding our bank account in France, I think I had told you in a prior video, but some of you may be new to my channel. We had started working on a French bank account back in May of last year. And it took us quite a while to get that bank account, all the paperwork done, everything approved. And the final step was going to Nice, which we did in November. And so our bank account was open, and we're using BNP Paribas. We're not crazy about the fact that BNP Paribas requires you to put 10,000 euros in a bank account and let it sit there because their debit cards will allow you to take any amount of money out of your checking account, even if you don't have the money in there. Well, we haven't ordered the debit cards yet, so I'm not concerned, and we haven't put the money in that savings account yet. We just have some money in the checking account to cover initial things. So in order to get electric set up, you have to have an IBAN number from your French bank account. In order to get the internet and the telephone telephone service in France, you need to have the IBAN number from your bank account because they bill your French bank account. Even if we said, no, we don't want to do it that way, they don't care. If you don't have a French bank account, you don't get any of those things. So one of the first things you need to do is get yourself a French bank account. When we go back to Nice, we're going to meet with another bank. Oh, Credit Agricole. That's where I think we're going to go. So what we've been using in the meantime is our Wise card. We have been moving, thousands of euros at a shot, or thousands of dollars at a shot to a Wise card. And you can go to wise.com and learn all about it. So you move it as US dollars, and then when there's a good exchange rate, you convert it from US dollars to euros. And then if you go on your Wise app, you can see how many dollars you have in US dollars, how many dollars you have in euros. You can have multiple currencies. If you go to other countries where they have something other than euros, you could have US dollars, euros, some other country money, and you can set this all up in your app. So we had put money into the Wise card. We each have our own, and that's what we were buying things with there, rather than using our US credit card or our US debit card. And I understand that there are a lot of people who pay all of their expenses using that Wise card rather than opening a bank account. I believe that the Wise card has an IBAN number too, I forget. But you could look into that and maybe use that IBAN number instead of going and getting a French bank account if you don't want to be bothered with that right now. One more thing that I wanted to share with you is when I was at the airport, I was hungry. We were in Miami, and I just wanted something to munch on the plane. And I made the mistake of buying gummy cherries. So you know what they are? They're little gummy things. They look like a little red cherry with green stems on them. And I bought a bag of them and I was eating them. And I was fine. When I got to Nice that night, I don't know why, I think I came home and in the evening, I just felt like munching on something, and there was nothing really in the house other than bunches of Girl Scout cookies that my cousin's daughter had sold us, that I brought with us to Nice to throw in the freezer there. And I didn't want a cookie, so I started chewing on one of those gummy cherries, and it took one of my dental crowns out. I thought, this is all I need now. So I walk out. Jeff was sitting in the dining room trying to figure something out with his computer, and I walk out with my dental crown in my hand, and he goes, oh my God, what happened? And I said I made the mistake of having a gummy. So the next morning, I went on my phone and just did a search for dentists near me. And I found out that there was a dentist, like, I don't know, four buildings on the same street, like, I don't know, a 2-minute walk from our apartment. So, and they accepted walk-ins. So I went there, and they were so nice. When I got there, they couldn't take me immediately. I think we got there at like 11:30. They told me to come back at 1. So at 1 o'clock, Jeff came with me because he just wanted to see what it was like in there. And the dentist that took care of me, it was like a whole clinic of dentists. But the guy who took care of me was very, very nice, spoke great English. He said he was from Spain. He was born in France, but lived most of his life in Spain, and he was back in France. And so he took x-rays, and then he attached the crown, and I thought, oh, okay, he's probably just gonna do a temporary fix. And when he was done, I said, is that like temporary? He said, oh, no, that's there forever. That's not going anywhere. So I was sort of stunned, and then he said, sit down, I need to talk to you about your x-rays. And I thought, oh my God, what is he gonna tell me? He's probably going to say, oh, you need intensive gum work or something, I don't know. He said, you know, everything in your mouth looks great, except you have 2 cavities on the front. He said, when you come back to Nice in April, he said, get yourself settled, it's not urgent. When you get settled, come back and I will take care of those cavities. So now you know everything. I'm sorry it took so long to get through all of this, but you know, Jeff's asleep and I'm just sitting here with technically nothing to do. It's now, I've been sitting here, it's after 8 o'clock. So I guess I've been talking to you for an hour maybe, and I apologize that this video is so long. But I wanted to share with you all of the things that we've experienced just in this very first week. And of course, as we start, well, when we go back to Nice, as we start living, we will take you with us. Things were a little frantic when we were there, just trying to figure out where we were going. And, you know, the language thing, that language thing is something. I always felt that I could speak French fairly well. The problem I have is I can speak fairly well, but I can't understand as well as I can speak. So I would say something to someone and they would respond back and I would like be, you know, a deer caught in headlights, like, oh, what? And I'd always end up saying, I'm sorry, I don't understand, or I'm sorry, my French isn't very good. But they would say, no, you speak very well. But I'd say, yeah, well, I can't think as well. So I felt bad that there were many occasions when I would start out, for example, when we were shopping for an oven, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what this guy's saying. I'm just going to ask if they have an English-speaking salesperson. And so they found somebody who spoke enough English and we sort of made it through. But so anyway, beef up on your language, learn French, and I know I need to work on my French comprehension when people are rattling off things. And I recently learned that there is a station, I think it's called Slow News, and it's a French news station where the people are reading the news slowly. And I think they have subtitles as well. So people have said that that's a good way to practice understanding what is being said. So there you go. Okay, I've been all over the place on this video and I apologize. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope to be back next week with another video. I don't know if it'll be more of us packing up stuff, or I still have video from our trip back in November and December that I haven't shared with you, that I want to share with you. And so I might share with you some of that stuff and then get back to the regular routine every Sunday morning, a new video when we start doing our weekly vlogs from Nice. So again, thank you. Sorry I missed you last week. There was just too much going on. I will see you next time. Oh, and if you're not a subscriber, click below, subscribe, and click that little bell so that you get notifications every time I upload a new video. And if you're not a member of our Facebook group, please join the Facebook group and let's chat. I mean, that's a great way to have conversation with other like-minded people who support my video. And, you know, it's a great way to ask me a question if it's not a personal thing. Ask me a question, and I often am on my Facebook group answering questions, although not many are coming in. So, see you next time. Bye for now.